Our subject today, the selfishness and arrogance of unrighteous kings. This is a story of a foolish and arrogant king and an equally foolish group of people, subjects of this king. Now, our Bible turns its attention to Moses, who was born about 1500 BC. He was chosen to lead Israel out of slavery and give them Yahweh's laws. When the book of Exodus begins, the Hebrews were living in Egypt, and after a time, they grew in number, and the new Pharaoh didn't remember Joseph and put them into slavery. The Hebrew slaves had been reproducing so fast that the king felt threatened by a potential revolt against his authority. He gave orders that no more male Hebrew children should be allowed to live. And with his order in place, this happened and eventually led to his undoing. Let's start dropping anchor at Exodus, the 2nd chapter, the 1st verse. Exodus, the 2nd chapter, the 1st verse. And a man went from the house of Levi and took a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw him, that he was beautiful. And she concealed him 3 months. And she was not able to hide him any longer. And she took a basket for him, made of papyrus, and she daubed it with bitumen and with pitch. And she put the child inside it and placed it in the reeds at the lip of the Nile River. And his sister took her stand from a distance to know what would happen to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh went down to bathe at the Nile. And her slave women were walking on the side of the Nile. And she saw the basket in the reeds in the midst, and sent her slave girl and took it. And she opened it and saw the child, and behold, a boy crying. And she had pity on him and said, "This is one of the children of the Hebrews." And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a woman for you, a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you wages." And the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he became a son to her. And she called his name Moses, and said, "Because I drew him out of the water." By Yahweh's providence, Moses, the child of a Hebrew slave, was found and adopted by an Egyptian princess, the daughter of the Pharaoh himself. He was reared in the royal court as a prince of the Egyptians. At the same time, Yahweh determined that Moses should be taught in his earliest years by his own mother. This meant that he was founded in the faith of his fathers, although he was reared as an Egyptian. Moses was educated in the civilization unsurpassed by any people at that time. In the ensuing years, we have learned that these people had crude, effective air conditioning, hot and cold running water, and many other things that we have not known they had at that time. Moses was educated in a civilization unsurpassed by any people at that time. His training was designed to prepare him for a high office or even the throne of Egypt. He became familiar with life in Pharaoh's courts and the pomp and grandeur of Egyptian pagan worship. He was schooled in the writing and literary ideas of the time. Go over to Acts 7th chapter for a minute. Acts, the 7th chapter, the 22nd verse. And Moses was instructed in all the wisdom of Egyptians and was powerful in words and works. And when a period of 40 years was fulfilled, to him it arose in his heart to look upon his brothers, the sons of Israel. Go back to Exodus, the 2nd chapter, the 11th verse. And then in those days when Moses had grown up, he went out to his brothers and he saw their forced labor. And he saw an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man, one of his brothers. And he said there, he turned there, and that he turned this way and that way. And he saw no one. And he struck the Egyptian, and he hid him in the sand. In other words, he killed him. And he went out on the 2nd day, and there were 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he said to the guilty one, "Why do you strike your neighbor?" And he said, "Who appointed you as a commander and a judge over us? Are you intending to kill me like you killed the Egyptian?" And Moses was afraid, and he said, "Surely this matter has become known." And Pharaoh heard this matter, and he sought to kill Moses. And Moses fled from Pharaoh, and he lived in the land of Midian, and he lived at a certain well. Continuing on to verse 16. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and came to the rescue and watered their flocks. And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, "Why have you come so quickly today?" And they said, "An Egyptian man delivered us from the hand of the shepherds, and he even drew water for us and watered the flock." And he said to his daughters, "Where is he? Why then have you left this man? Call him so that you can eat some food. He can eat some food." And Moses agreed to stay with the man. And he gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moses. And she bore a son, and he called his name Gershon, because he said, I am an alien in a foreign land. Continuing on, verse 23. And then during those days, the king of Egypt died, and the Israelites groaned of their work, and they cried out. And their cry for help because of the work went up to Yahweh. And Yahweh heard their groaning. And Yahweh remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And Yahweh saw the Israelites. And Yahweh took notice. Continuing Exodus 3rd chapter, the 1st verse. And Moses was a shepherd with the flock of Jethro. Jethro, his son-in-law. There's some confusion here, as that first name wasn't Jethro. We translate son-in-law in a different way, in different ways, and there's some confusion about who was who here. And even the people who know such things have been constantly confused about this Ruel. But the boil down of it is that Ruel being dead, Moses was continued by his brother-in-law, Jethro, in the same employment he had under his father, Ruel. Exodus, the 3rd chapter, the 1st verse again. Now that we have some clarity here, as much as possible. Moses was a shepherd with the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the west of the desert, and he came to the mountain of Yahweh, Horeb. And the angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a burning bush. And he looked, and there was the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not being consumed by the fire. And Moses said, let me turn aside and see this great sight. Why does the bush not burn up? And Yahweh said that he turned aside to see, and Yahweh called to him from the midst of the bush. And he said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. And he said, you must not come near to here. This is where we got this from. Take off your sandals from your feet, because the place on which you are standing, it is holy ground. And he said, I am the Yahweh of your father, the Yahweh of Abraham, the Yahweh of Isaac, and the Yahweh of Jacob. And Moses hid his face because he was afraid of looking at Yahweh. And Yahweh said, surely I have seen the misery of my people who are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry of distress because of their oppressors, for I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them all up from this land to a good land, wide land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. And now, look at the cry of distress of the Israelites has come to me. And I see the oppression with which the Egyptians are oppressing them. And now, come and I will send you to Pharaoh, and you must bring my people, the Israelites, out from Egypt. But Moses said to Yahweh, who am I that I should do this? Notice, after the education he had, the humility continues. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And he said, because I am with you, and this will be the sign for you that I myself have sent you. When you bring the people out from Egypt, you will serve Yahweh on this mountain. But Moses said to Yahweh, look, if I go to the Israelites and say to them, the Yahweh of your ancestors has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? Then what shall I say to them? Yahweh said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, so you must say to the Israelites, I am sent me to you. And Yahweh said again to Moses, so you must say to the Israelites, Yahweh, the Yahweh of your ancestors, the Yahweh of Abraham, the Yahweh of Isaac, and the Yahweh of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance from generation to generation. Go and gather the elders of Israel and say to them, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, appears to me, the Yahweh of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying that I have carefully attended to you and what has done to you in Egypt. And I said, I will bring you up from this misery of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will listen to your voice. And you will go, you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt. And you will say to him, Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, has met with me. And now let us please go on a journey of 3 days into the desert, and let us sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim. Yahweh anointed Aaron to go with Moses to be the spokesman, and they persuaded the people of Israel to follow them. But Pharaoh would not let them go. Exodus, the 5th chapter, the 1st verse. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went, and they said to Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, release my people so that they may hold a festival for me in the desert. And Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh, that I should listen to his voice to release Israel? I do not know Yahweh, and I will not release Israel. And they said, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. Please let us go on a 3-day journey into the desert, and let us sacrifice to Yahweh our God, lest he strike us with plague or with sword. And the king of Egypt said, why, Moses and Aaron, do you take the people from their work? Go to your forced labor. And Pharaoh said, look, the people of the land are now many, and you want to stop them from their forced labor? Verse 6. And on that day, Pharaoh commanded the slave drivers over the people and the foremen, saying, you must no longer give straw to the people to make their bricks with, like before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves. But the quota of bricks that they were making before, you must require of them. You must not reduce from it, because they're lazy. We heard that before. Therefore, they are crying out, saying, let us go and sacrifice to our God. Let the work be heavier on the men, so that they will do it and not pay attention to words of deception. He didn't believe. Words of deception, he says. And the slave drivers of the people and their foremen went out, and they spoke to the people and said, thus says Pharaoh, I am not giving you straw. You go get straw for yourselves, and whatever you find, because not a thing is being reduced from your work. And the people spread out in all the land of Egypt to gather stubble for the straw. And the slave drivers were insisting, saying, finish your work for each day on its day, as there were when there was straw. Exodus 5:19. And the foreman of the Israelites saw they were in trouble with this saying, you will not reduce from your bricks for each day on its day. And they met Moses and Aaron, who were waiting for them to meet them when they were going out from Pharaoh. And they said to him, may Yahweh look upon you and judge, because you have caused our fragrance to stink in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, so as to put a sword into their hand to kill us. And Moses returned to Yahweh and said, Master, why have you brought this trouble onto your people? Why ever did you send me? And from the time I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble to this people. And you have certainly not delivered your people. And now even Moses doubts. Then Yahweh sent 10 devastating plagues onto the Egyptians. The first plague, blood. Exodus, the 7th chapter, the 1st verse. And Yahweh said to Moses, see, I have made you a prophet, made you as a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother will be your prophet. You will speak all that I will command you, and Aaron your brother will speak to Pharaoh, and he will release the Israelites from his land. And I myself will harden the heart of Pharaoh, and I will make my signs and my wonders numerous in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh will not listen to you. And I will put my hand into Egypt and bring out my divisions, my people, the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with great punishments. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand over Egypt and bring the Israelites out from their midst. And Moses and Aaron did it, as Yahweh commanded them, so they did. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 years old at the time. Older folks note this. When you are one of God's people, your age doesn't matter. You got backup. Verse 8, and Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh speaks to you, saying, do a wonder for yourselves, you will say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. And Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh, and they did so, as Yahweh had commanded. And Aaron threw his staff before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a snake. And Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, and they also, the magicians of Egypt, did likewise with their secret arts. They threw down their staffs, and they became snakes. And Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs, ate them right there. Anybody with a heart at this point would stop. And Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he did not listen to them, as Yahweh had said. And Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh's heart is insensitive. He refuses to release these people. Go to Pharaoh in the morning. Look, he is going out to the water, and you must wait to meet him on the bank of the Nile. And you must take in your hand the staff that was changed into a snake. And you must say to him, Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, has sent me to you. Release my people, that they may serve me in the desert. And look, you have not listened up to now. And Yahweh said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch your hand out over the waters in Egypt, and over their rivers, and over their canals, and over their pools, and over all their reservoirs of water, so that they become blood. And blood will be in all the land of Egypt, and in vessels of wood and stone. And Moses and Aaron did so, as Yahweh has commanded. And he raised the staff and struck the water in the Nile before the eyes of Pharaoh and before the eyes of his servants. And all the water that was in the Nile was changed to blood. And the fish that were in the Nile died, and the Nile stank, and the Egyptians were not able to drink water from the Nile, their only source of water. And the blood was in all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did likewise with their secret arts. And Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he did not listen to them, as Yahweh had spoken. If these magicians of Pharaoh would have been thinking of the people of Egypt, they would not have duplicated the miracle of Yahweh. They would have turned the water pure again and let the Egyptian people have fish to eat and fresh water to drink. Thus is the thinking of evil men in power. Pharaoh's heart was hardened already. Moses, remember, was raised as a member of Pharaoh's family as a child, and this pique was fueled by some degree of sibling rivalry as well as bigotry. Moses, after all, not having real Egyptian blood flowing through his veins, maddened Pharaoh all the more in this endeavor. This would at any rate be a fight to the death between these two. The second plague, frogs. Exodus, the 8th chapter, the 1st verse. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, thus says Yahweh, release my people so that they may serve me. And if you are refusing to release, look, I am going to plague all of your territory with frogs. And the Nile will swarm with frogs. And they will go up and come into your house and into your bedroom and onto your bed and onto into the house of your servants and among your people and into your ovens and into your kneading troughs. And the frogs will go up against you and against your people and against all of your servants." And Yahweh said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your hands with your staff over the rivers, over the canals, and over the pools, and bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt." And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs went up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did likewise with their secret arts, and they brought up frogs over the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, "Pray to Yahweh and let him remove the frogs from me and from my people, and let me release the people so that they can sacrifice to Yahweh." And Moses said to Pharaoh, "I leave to you the honor over me. When shall I pray for you and for your servants and for your people to cut off the frogs from you and your houses? They will be left only in the Nile." And he said, "Tomorrow." And he said, "Let it be according to your word, so that you will know that there is no one like Yahweh, our Elohim. And the frogs will depart from you and from your house and your servants' houses. They will be only in the Nile." And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried out to Yahweh over the matter of the frogs that he had brought on Pharaoh. And Yahweh did according to the word of Moses. And the frogs died from the houses, from the courtyards, and from the fields. And they piled up in heaps, countless heaps, and the land stank. And Pharaoh saw that there was relief, and he made his heart insensitive, and he did not listen to them as Yahweh had spoken. Now the gnats. Exodus, the 8th chapter, the 16th verse. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the land, and it will become gnats in all the land of Egypt." And he said, and Aaron stretched out his hand and his staff, and he struck the dust of the land, and it became gnats on the humans and on the animals. All of the dust of the land became gnats in all the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their secret arts. They never learn, do they? If anything, at this point, take away the gnats, not double them. And they brought out more gnats, but they were not able, and the gnats were on the humans and on the animals. And the magicians said to Pharaoh, "It is the finger of God." They can't duplicate this one. They couldn't duplicate this one. But the heart of Pharaoh was hard, and he did not listen to them, as Yahweh had spoken. Next plague, flies. Exodus, the 8th chapter, the 20th verse. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Start early in the morning and start before Pharaoh. Look, he is going out to the water, and you must say to him, 'Thus says Yahweh, release my people so that they may serve me.' But if you are not about to release my people, look, I am about to send out flies among your people, and among your servants, and among your people, and in your houses. And the houses of Egypt will fill up with the flies, and also the ground that they are on. And on that day I will distinguish the land of Goshen, where my people are staying, by there not being any flies there." So that you will know that I am Yahweh in the midst of the land. And I will put a distinction between my people and your people. This sign will be tomorrow. And Yahweh did so. And a severe swarm of flies came to the house of Pharaoh and the house of his servants and all the land of Egypt. The land was ruined because of the flies. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, and he said, "Go, sacrifice to your God in the land." And Moses said, "To do so is not right, because we will sacrifice to Yahweh our God a thing detestable to the Egyptians. Look, if we sacrifice before their eyes, the thing will be detestable. The thing will be detestable to the Egyptians. Will they not stone us? We will go a journey of 3 days into the desert, and we will sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim, according to what he says to us." And Pharaoh said, "I myself will release you, and you will sacrifice to your God in the desert. Only surely you must not go far." Holding on still to his whatever it was, integrity, whatever. Those who say that God did this, his heart was already hard. Obviously, his heart was already hard. And Pharaoh made his heart insensitive also at this time, and he did not release the people. This time Yahweh did not touch Pharaoh's heart. He was hardened on his own, and would have been either way. This was a contest between non-blood brothers. In other words, brother-in-laws. That's thicker than any bonding or hardening. The fifth plague, the disease of livestock. Exodus, the 9th chapter, the 1st verse. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, thus says Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, release my people so that they may serve me. But if you are refusing to release and you still are keeping hold on them, the hand of Yahweh is about to be present with you, a severe, very severe plague on your livestock that are in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the cattle, and on the sheep and the goats. But Yahweh will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt. Not a thing will die from all that belongs to the Israelites. And Yahweh set an appointed time, saying, tomorrow Yahweh will do this thing in the land. And he did this thing the next day. All the livestock of Egypt died. And from the livestock of the Israelites, not one died. And Pharaoh sent to check. He's still not convinced. And Pharaoh sent to check. And it turned out not even one from the livestock of Israel had died. But Pharaoh's heart was insensitive, and he did not release the people. And again, this time he made his own people suffer for his own hardness of heart. Sixth plague, boils. Exodus, the 9th chapter, the 8th verse. And Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron, take for yourselves full hands full of soot from a smelting furnace. This was a miracle in itself. They put their bare hands into a smelting furnace and were not burned. Let that not pass you by. Note this little miracle to Moses and Aaron. And let Moses sprinkle this dust to the heavens before the eyes of Pharaoh. Verse 9. And it will become fine dust over all the land of Egypt. And it will become on humans and on animals a skin sore, sprouting blisters in all the land of Egypt. That's what would have happened to their hands had he not protected them. It happened to the people of Egypt. And they took the soot of the smelting furnace and they stood before Pharaoh and sprinkled it toward the heavens. And it became sores and sprouting blisters on humans and on animals, but not on the hands of Moses, Aaron, and any other Israelites. 11. And the magicians were not able to stand before Moses because of the skin sores, for the skin sores were on the magicians and on all the Egyptians. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart And he did not listen to them, as Yahweh had spoken to Moses. The seventh plague, hail. Hail. Exodus, the 9th chapter, the 13th verse. And Yahweh said unto Moses, start early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Look, he is going out to the water, and you may say to him, must say to him, thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, release my people so that they may serve me. For at the time I am sending all of my plagues to you personally, and among your servants and among your people, so that you will now know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For now I could have stretched out my hand, and I could have struck you and your people with the plague, but you would have perished from the earth. But for the sake of this, I have caused you to stand, for the sake of showing you my strength, and in order to proclaim my name in all the earth. Still, you are behaving haughtily to my people by not releasing them. Look, about this time tomorrow, I am going to cause very severe hail to rain, the like of which has not been in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. And now send word, bring into safety your livestock and all that belongs to you in the field. The hail will come down on every human and every animal that is found in the field and not gathered into the house. They will die. Anyone from the servants of Pharaoh who feared the word of Yahweh caused his servants and livestock to flee to the houses. But whomever did not give regard to the word of Yahweh abandoned his servants and his livestock in the field. 22. And Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand to the heavens, and let there be hail in all the land of Egypt, on humans and on animals, and all vegetation of the field in the land of Egypt. And Moses stretched out his staff to the heavens, and Yahweh gave thunder and hail, and fire went to the earth. And Yahweh caused hail to rain on the people of Egypt. And there was hail, and fire was flashing back and forth in the midst of the very severe hail. Fire and hail at the same time? And I did this for a reason. I've never done this in this detail before. This man was something else. And he is seen here in all of his vain glory. And the hail struck in all the land of Egypt. 25. All that was in the field, from human to animal, and the hail struck all the vegetation of the field and smashed every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. The people had to see this. They had to see it. And Pharaoh sent and called Moses and Aaron and said to them, I have sinned this time. Yahweh is the righteous one, and and my people are the wicked ones. Not the people, it's you, brother. Verse 28, pray to Yahweh. The thunder of God and hail are enough, and I will release you, and you will no longer have to stay. And Moses said to him, at my leaving the city, I will spread out my hands to Yahweh. The thunder will stop, and the hail will be no more, so that you will know that the earth belongs to Yahweh. But as for you and your servants, I know that you do not yet fear the presence of Yahweh Elohim. And the flax and the barley were struck, because the barley was in the ear, and the flax was in the bud. That was kind of letting them know what time of year it was. Because the barley was in the ear and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not struck, because they are late ripening. And Moses went from Pharaoh out of the city, and he spread out his hands to Yahweh, and the thunder and the hail stopped, and the rain did not pour on the earth. And Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder stopped, and he again sinned and made his heart insensitive. He and his servants, and Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he did not release the Israelites, as Yahweh had said by the agency of Moses. Exodus, the 10th chapter, the 1st verse. Locusts. And Yahweh said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for I have made his heart insensitive in the hearts of his servants, in order to put these signs of mine in his midst, so that you will tell in the ears of your children and your grandchildren that I dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and so that you will tell about my signs that I have done among them. And so you will know that I am Yahweh. And Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh, and they said to him, thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, until when will you refuse to submit before me? Until when will you refuse to submit before me? Release my people so that they may serve me. And if you are refusing to release my people, look, I am about to bring locusts into your territory tomorrow. And they will cover the surface of the land, and no one will be able to see the land. And they will eat the remainder of what is left. Not much. What is left over for you from the hail, and they will eat every sprouting tree belonging to you from the field. And your houses will be full, and the houses of all your servants, and the houses of all Egypt, something that your fathers and your grandfathers never saw from the day they were put on the earth until this day. And he turned and went out from Pharaoh. And the servants of Pharaoh said to him, until when will be these people a snare for us? Release these men so that they may serve their Yahweh. their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed? And Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, serve Yahweh your God. Who are the ones going? He's still cutting his own deal after all this. Who are the ones going? And Moses said, with our young and with our old we go. With our sons and with our daughters we go. With our sheep and goats and with our cattle we go. Because it is the feast of Yahweh for us. Verse 10, and he said to them, let Yahweh be thus with you as soon as I release you and your dependents. See that evil is before your faces. No, indeed, just the men go and serve Yahweh, since this is what you are seeking. And he drove them out from the presence of Pharaoh. And Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt with the locusts, and so that they may come up over the land of Egypt. And let them eat all the vegetation of the land, all that hail left behind, little of it as there was. And Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt. And Yahweh drove an east wind into the land all that day and all night. The morning came, and the east wind had brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt. And they settled in all the territory of Egypt, very severe. Before it, there were not locusts like them, nor will there be after. And they covered the surface of all the land, and the land was dark with them. And they ate all the vegetation of the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left, and no green was left in the trees, nor even a leaf. Left in the trees, nor in the vegetation of the field, in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh hurried to call Moses and Aaron. And he said, I have sinned against Yahweh your Elohim, and against you, and now forgive you my sin, surely this time, and pray to Yahweh your Elohim, so that he may only remove from me this death. And he said, and he went out from Pharaoh, and he prayed to Yahweh. And Yahweh turned a very strong west wind and lifted up the locusts and thrust them into the Red Sea. And not one locust remained in all the territory. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not release the Israelites. The ninth plague, darkness. Exodus, the 10th chapter, the 21st verse. And Yahweh said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the heavens, so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, and so that a person can feel the darkness. And Moses stretched out his hand toward the heavens, and there was darkness of night in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. No one could see his brother, and because of it, no one could move from where they were for 3 days. But there was light for the Israelites in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called Moses and said, "Go, serve Yahweh. Only your sheep and goats and your cattle must be left behind." Still holding out after all this. What kind of fool? Only your sheep and goats and your cattle must be left behind. Your dependents may also go with you. And Moses said, "Even if you yourself put up into our hands sacrifices and burnt offerings, and we offer them to Yahweh, our God, our livestock must go also with us. Not a hoof can be left, because we must take from them to serve Yahweh, our Elohim. And we will not know what we are to serve Yahweh until we get there." And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart once again, and he was not willing to release them. And Pharaoh said to him, "Go from me. Be careful not to see my face again, because on the day of your seeing my face, you will die." And Moses said, "This is right. I will not again see your face." Go on to the Exodus, the 11th chapter. The death of the firstborn. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Still one plague I will bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt afterward. He will release you from here. At the moment of his releasing, he will certainly drive you completely out from here. Speak to the ears of the people, and let them ask, a man from his neighbor and a woman from her neighbor, for objects of silver and objects of gold." And Yahweh gave the people favor in the eyes of Egypt. Also, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt. It finally sunk in. In the eyes of the servants of Pharaoh and in the eyes of the people. By this time, the citizens of Egypt knew that Pharaoh didn't care much about them. An alarming thing to consider for the citizens of any country. Verse 4. And Moses said, "Thus says Yahweh, about the middle of the night, I will go out and through the middle of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sits on the throne, to the firstborn of the slave woman who is behind the pair of millstones, and every first animal. And there will be a great cry of distress in all the land of Egypt, the like of which has not been seen nor will be again. But again, all the Israelites, from a man to an animal or a dog, will not bark, so that you will know that Yahweh makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. And all of these your servants will come down to me and bow to me, saying, Go out, you and your people, who are at your feet. And afterward I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. And Yahweh said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may multiply in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and still Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not release the Israelites from his land. Exodus, the 12th chapter, the 1st verse. And Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month will be the beginning of months for you. It'll be for you the first month of the year, Abib. Verse 3. Speak to all the community of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they will each take to themselves a lamb for a family. A lamb for the family, and if the household is too small for a lamb, he and the neighbor nearest his house will take one according to the number of persons. You will count portions out of the lamb according to how much each one can eat. Take no more than you need. Even in this, God is conserving, taking just enough from the land. Verse 5. The lamb for you must be a male without defect. In its first year, you will take it from the sheep or from the goats. You will keep it until the 14th day of the month. And all the assembly of community of Israel will slaughter it at twilight. Anybody know what this is? Passover. This happened on Passover. Verse 7. And they will take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel, on the houses in which they eat it. And they will eat the meat on this night. He took it at this point into his own hands, in his own plan. It's going to happen now. You must not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted with fire, its head with its legs and with its inner parts. And you must not leave any of it until tomorrow morning. Anything left from it until tomorrow, you must burn in the fire. And this is how you will eat it: with your waists fastened, your sandals in your feet, on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you will eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from human to animal, and I will do punishments among all the gods of Egypt. I am Yahweh. And the blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And I will see the blood, and I will pass over you. And there will not be a destructive plague among you when I strike the land of Egypt. And this day will become a memorial for you. And that's when he went out. This last day, the last plague being the death of the firstborn in every home whose doors were not marked with blood. And the only ones that weren't marked with blood were the ones of the Egyptians. Exodus, the 14th chapter. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites, so that they turn and encamp before Piharoth, between Migdol and the sea." After they all died, and the firstborn were dead, and he let them go. Watch what happened. Verse 4, "And I will harden the heart of Pharaoh, and he will chase after them. And I will be glorified through Pharaoh and throughout his army. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh." And they did so. And it was told to the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh was changed, and that of his servants toward the people. And they said, "What is this we have done? What we have released Israel from serving us?" And he harnessed his chariot and took with him his people. And he took 600 chariots and all the chariots of Egypt and officers over all of them. And Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and he chased after the Israelites. Now the Israelites were going out boldly. Verse 9, "And the Egyptians chased them, and they overtook them and camped at the sea. All the horses of the chariots of Pharaoh and his charioteers and his army at Piharoth before Baal-zephon. And Pharaoh approached as the Israelites lifted their eyes. And there was the Egyptians traveling after them, and they were very afraid. And the Israelites cried out to Yahweh, and they said to Moses, "Because there are not graves in Egypt, is that why you have taken us here to die in the desert? What is this you have done to us by bringing us out from Egypt? Isn't this the word we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, 'Leave us alone so that we can serve Egypt'? Because serving Egypt is better for us than our dying in the desert." And Moses said to the people, "You must not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will accomplish for you today. Because the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. And Yahweh will fight for you, and you must be quiet." And Yahweh said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Speak to the Israelites so that they set out. And you lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it so that the Israelites can go in the middle of the sea on dry land." "And as for me, look, I am about to harden the heart of the Egyptians so that they come after you, and I will display my glory through Pharaoh and through all of his army, and through his chariots and through his charioteers. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh when I display my glory through Pharaoh, through his chariots, and through his charioteers." And the angel of Yahweh was going through before the camp of Israel, and set out and went behind them, and the column of cloud set out ahead of them, and it stood behind them, so that it came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. It was a dark cloud, but it gave light to the night, so that neither approached the other all night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh moved the sea with a strong east wind all night, and he made the sea become dry ground, and the waters were divided, and the Israelites entered the middle of the sea on the dry land. The waters were a wall for them on their right and on their left, and the Egyptians gave chase and entered after them, all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots and his charioteers, in the middle of the sea. And during the morning watch, Yahweh looked down to the Egyptian camp in the column of fire and cloud, and he threw the Egyptian camp into driving them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "We must flee away from Israel, because Yahweh is fighting for them against Egypt." And Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and let the waters return over the Egyptians, over their chariots and over their charioteers." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned at daybreak to its normal level, and the Egyptians were fleeing before it because of it. And Yahweh swept the Egyptians into the middle of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the charioteers. All the army of Pharaoh coming after them in the sea, not even one survived among them. But the Israelites walked out on dry land in the middle of the sea. The waters were a wall for them on their right and on their left. And Yahweh saved Israel on that day from the hand of Egypt and Israel. And Israel saw the great hand that Yahweh displayed against Egypt, and the people feared Yahweh, and they believed in Yahweh, for then anyway, and his servant. Any questions?